Welcome to the Book of Exodus series on the Town and Field Church podcast. In this 40-day series, one of us at Town and Field will be taking a quick look at one of the chapters of Exodus and sharing some ideas around the text. To learn more about this reading plan and podcast, visit townandfield.ca/reading plans. Now enjoy today's episode.
Hey, it's Ryan. Exodus chapter 40. Man, if you've made it this far, congrats. Thank you so much for being part of this journey with us. Chapter 40 is really cool because it's like the culmination of so much of what we've been reading. You start to see like the lampstand and the ark and the curtain, they're putting together, and you remember, oh yeah, I remember reading about that, back early on in the book, and starts coming together. And then, Aaron and his sons come and they're washing their hands and being anointed. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember reading the instructions. And this is where it all starts to come together. And now the tabernacle is built. The priests are like commissioned, and all of it has like culminated here in chapter 40. But Exodus doesn't end as just, okay, we accomplished the building project. But what the building project and what all of the instructions are about wraps up in the final verses, and I want to read to you starting in verse 34. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because the cloud had settled on it, and the glory of the Lord had filled the tabernacle. Remember, this tent, this tabernacle, wasn't just set out for God to say, hey, let's have this cool tent in the middle of this, or some kind of monument. But this was his dwelling place. This was him saying, I am going to dwell amongst my people. I'm coming to live with you guys. I'm going to camp with you guys. I'm going to journey through the wilderness with you guys. I am with my people. And we see the glory of the Lord fill this. And his glory is so immense that Moses can't even go near it. Remember, this is the guy that was allowed to go up and down the mountain. He has to stay out of it. And I love this, starting in verse 36 to the end. In all the travels of the Israelites, whenever the cloud lifted from above the tabernacle, they would set out. But if the cloud did not lift, they did not set out until the day it lifted. So the cloud of the Lord was over the tabernacle by day, and fire was in the cloud by night, in the sight of all the Israelites during their travels. Now, this is just cool. I mean, fire burning in the air, this cloud, stuff like that. It's really cool. But I just love this culmination of obedience. God is charting a course for his people, and they travel when his cloud travels, and they stop when it stops. Now, I don't believe that scripture teaches that God necessarily has like a specific, like, you need to do this job or you need to do this thing for every single person. I think God has some of those prompts, but I do think we're in a culture and a time of paying very little attention to what God might have for us. I find myself stumbling into this quite a bit. Recently, Talcy and I have been talking about, we have these two kids, and, the conversation has been like, do we want to have another one? Should we stop? Are we done? And it's pretty easy in the first few months of having a baby to be like, no, never again, we're done. But I realized, I'm like, why is the conversation, do we want? We're talking about bringing a life into the world. The conversation should be, have we prayed? Have we sought God out on this? Do we feel like he's leading us a certain direction? That's convicting for me. How often can I be like the Israelites who, after this crazy journey, coming out of slavery, seeing God do all these immense things, offer his law and these instructions, just go from there and kind of do my own thing rather than trying to slow down and create space and say, God, please lead and direct me. I want to be obedient. Thank you that you dwell among me. And as your cloud rests on the tent, then help me to obey in that. But as you set out, help me to set out. Again, I don't think maybe God has a specific answer for every single decision you need to make in life. Like, you probably don't need to wake up every morning and ask him what you should wear. I mean, unless you're Aaron and his sons, then yeah, that's part of the book. But I do think that there's a sense in which I am feeling convicted, and perhaps maybe that's something convicting and challenging for you, is to ask yourself, how much of life do I go through just saying, what do I want? What do I feel like doing? What would make people happy? What would make me happy? Rather than saying, how do I best practice obedience to my God? What would please him most? What would be the most faithful decision I can? How do I look out at the tabernacle that God has set up in my life, that he dwells among me, and observe if the cloud is there or if it's moving, and try to follow hard after God in faithful obedience every day? So may we, as followers of Jesus, choose that obedience to our God is the most noble venture we can take on, and continually ask God to lead us and to challenge ourselves to obey him faithfully and to surrender our lives to him. Thank you so much for journeying through Exodus with us.